Scarlet Nation and Scarlet Knights fans, welcome to another episode of Night Watch. I'm your host, Larry K. Just recapping the Rutgers week in basketball. Wednesday, I put out a video because we have the epic and excellent, news that Dylan Harper, at long last, has committed to the program. Subsequently, Wednesday night, the Scarlet Knights go out and just completely get dominated with a very uninspired effort and lose 76-57 against Wake Forest. Now, look, Wake Forest had an important player come back, for that game, which was unfortunate for us on our part. But at the end of the day, it still was another showing where we're like, what are we doing? The team looks uninspired. The team looks unorganized. What's going to happen? In fact, it was so bad that reports were Pike did not even come out and get to his post-game press conference. He stayed in the locker room for so long. And, Pike seemed to kind of admit as much in the Seton Hall post-game when he said, he challenged those guys. He challenged them to focus. He challenged them to put the phone down and to concentrate on the task at hand and to knock off the distractions and to really hone in on the task at hand and to put the right amount of effort and concentration into it. And so Saturday night at the Rock at Prudential Center, which is on the road, Rutgers wins a rivalry game. They win the Hardwood Classic. They take home the Boardwalk Hardwood Trophy for the first time in a couple years. If you remember last year, Seton Hall came to the rack and just dominated us. And, the prior year it was a tough one. I was actually there at the Rock for a Rutgers loss. But we win 70-63 for the Knights. Rutgers moves to 7-3. And if you really pay attention here, you really only have a quad 2 loss to Princeton. You got Illinois, who's a very good team. I know they went down last night, but they're a very good team. You got that loss. And then you got a loss on the road to Wake Forest. And that's a Wake Forest team who hasn't lost a game at home in some time. With them being fully healthy, they could be, a formidable, decent team later in the year. So the good news about this program right now, the good news is that we haven't had a catastrophic loss, that really puts us well behind the 8 ball. Now, we're not ahead of the 8 ball, and there's still a lot of questions with this team, but we are not well behind the 8 ball with a catastrophic loss. Well, that's the good news. Another point that I think is really important, that I do think it kind of gets lost a little bit in the conversation, and I understand that some people put a lot of stock in it and others are kind of poo-pooing it. Mawot Mag, his injury last year was much more of a crushing blow than people really want to give credit for, right? It's interesting because college basketball, you have the guys for a few years, and then they matriculate, they graduate, they leave. And so, a guy comes in, he's young, he's getting his feet wet, and then, you turn the page, and all of a sudden, before you really know it, he becomes an integral part of the team, and he becomes a star. And what you got to understand about Mawot Mag is he was a sophomore last year. So he was a young player before that. And then there were a lot of whispers in the offseason last year that Mag was really going to be one of the better players on the team, that his defense was very good, his rebounding, his effort, his just skill set. He was going to be one of the better players on the team last year. And, it was January or February, what was it, like right in that little time period, when Mag goes down at the MSG game against Michigan State. And that was right on his trajectory, if you pay attention. Yes, he might not have been the hugest part of the team the year before where you had these other star players. And that year, you'd got through the fall a little bit. You had gotten through the fall, but he was rising. His ascension was evident. And it's one of those cases where had Mag stayed healthy last year, had he finished out the season, I think he would have been a much more prominent name in Big Ten basketball and a much more prominent name in Rutgers, the Rutgers program, to the point that there wouldn't even be an argument that his injury was catastrophic for us. But because he was on that rise and he kind of got injured, unfortunately, before he completed that season and completed that rise. There was some debate as to whether he was a glue guy or one of the really better players on that team. And, you can't play games of what ifs all the time. But it would be interesting to see what the team would have been had Mag stayed healthy last year, what that team would have been, what the team might look like now. But that's all water under the bridge at this point. The fact is, Mag came back, first game back since his injury, and, there was some speculation. Why was he waiting? What was wrong? He was cleared to play. Why wasn't he in? I think yesterday it was evident that waiting until he was fully healthy was the right move. He comes out right off the bat, and he has a good game. Not insane with the scoring, but you got to understand, basketball, everybody knows scoring is a big part of it, but scoring's not the only part. There's other skills in basketball that are very important too, that matter a lot and change the way a game turns out. And, rebounding is one of them. So he had 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 points, but the 8 rebounds it was noticeable. It was noticeable. You're 17-17 early in the game. And we hit some, this is what this team is, by the way. I've been saying it since the beginning of the year. You're living and dying by how hot and cold you are shooting. And we've been cold more often than hot this season. We were hot last night from 3. And it made a difference. Seton Hall was also cold from the free throw line, which they normally aren't. So that's interesting. But Mag made a big difference. And Cliff played better. I think Mag is a leader on that team. I think more so than people realize. Cliff even said it's good to have my roommate back. It's good to have him with me. And Cliff won the MVP. Had a good game. Cliff had more energy, more pep in his step, and I think a lot of people have rightfully pointed out that Cliff's game is not necessarily a traditional post-up player that you're going to run an offense through, right? But he's the kind of player that if you get him going, you set him up nicely. He gets that energy and he starts, getting second chances. He starts getting the ball in good position closer to the hoop, things like that. Then good things happen. So Amori was 13 rebounds, 1 assist, 11 points, but 13 rebounds. And his defense was he was stifling that lane really good, especially as the first half wound down and throughout the second half. Just an absolute presence in the paint that was needed. And Mawat Mag, his defense, his presence, the way he plays defense made a difference on this team and will continue to make a difference on this team. He's not just a glue guy. He's one of the best players on the team, and he's needed in order for the team to function properly. It just is what it is. Noah Fernandes led the team, 19 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. I thought he was really poised down the stretch with his free throws. You needed that presence. In a game where Derek Simpson once again, he did some things, but once again wasn't that guy that you lean on. Noah was that guy late in the game where he could make free throws, and Simpson has been that guy in the past. I don't know. Simpson's had a really up and down year. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 points. Wolf had 5 rebounds, so he got in there. He got dirty. He did what he was asked to do when he got in there. With Mag's return, I think it changed his role, and I think it's for the better, for the good of the team, the way that he can come off the bench like that. Jichael Davis, though, that's the revelation here. 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 11 points. 6 assists, 11 points. Jichael Davis has shown flashes, and he's a young player, obviously. But he's very talented. And I think him with the ball in his hands in the backcourt was a big help for the team. Now, I'm not willing. I know some people I'm already seeing out there are saying, look, this is it. He's the guy. It's time to – I don't know. I want to see more from this team to know who the guy is, right? So I still don't know who the guy is. I still don't know what the lineup is that works the best. I don't know what the rotation is. This is one sign of what it could be, but I'm not 100% certain and convinced that that's it. I need to see more, and hopefully we do see more. But this was a much-needed game because it was a road win. A road win. And this program, as we know for the past several years, has struggled to get those road wins that help them, especially at a conference road wins to bolster the resume early in the season. Now, they have some blemishes. They have some losses. But Princeton's a very good team. Illinois is a very good team. Wake Forest can be a decent team, and it was a road loss. So we don't have any epic collapses here. And we have a nice little road win, although Seton Hall, let's be honest, Seton Hall this year is not the best Seton Hall team we've seen. And nor did they have the best day. And nor do I expect us to be that good from three-point range game in and game out. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see that yet. So I want to see more. But the good news is the season's intact because that's a road win that goes a long way as far as resume building just because it's a road win against the power, opponent from the Big East. But we need to continue to bolster that resume, and we better have a decent showing once the gauntlet in the Big Ten shows up. So it was a season-saving win in some ways. Now, I know Pike doesn't subscribe to that, but I think it was a season-saving win in some ways. You lose that game, and you're really in a big hole. Now, we got LIU coming to Jersey Mike's on Saturday, so we have time to sit back and relax a little bit. And the season really gets underway going forward here. So it was just a big game. And then you got Mississippi State at the Rock again, except this time it's not a true road game. Then you got Stonehill, and then we get into January and we get into the gauntlet. Now, if we could take care of business against LIU, take care of business against Stonehill, and then if we can beat Mississippi State, and if through these three games, you start to really refine and hone in on what the rotation is, on who the team is, then we can maybe have some momentum going into January and have a decent season, which is what I talked about earlier in the year, but it didn't look great, especially after that Illinois loss. And I want to be clear about something too, because I've gotten some feedback on my comments regarding the Illinois loss. Look, Illinois is a very good team. I didn't necessarily expect Rutgers to win, nor was I going to rip Rutgers or anybody if we lost. Illinois is a good team, right? But it was the way Rutgers played and looked against Illinois, the way the disorganization was, the way the lineup was, the way the energy was. And that's when I said, hey, I put that on coaching. And that doesn't mean, by the way, the second point, that I don't want Pike as a coach, or I don't like Pike. Pike's an awesome coach. I'm very happy we have Pike. I'm in no way suggesting that Pike's not the guy. Like, no way. I was just calling out. Sometimes people need to be called out, and Pike called out the team. Because then after that, to Wake Forest, it was maybe even worse. And Pike called the guys out. So just a side note, if I'm criticizing and calling people out, it's not because I'm being personal or because I don't respect the history or what the team can be. It's because, hey, sometimes people deserve to be called out. I deserve to be called out sometimes with the way I do this show or the way I do my day job. Everybody needs to be called out once in a while. I think the team answered the bell quite well against Seton Hall in a very important game, in a hostile environment, even though there were a lot of RU representation there. I mean, it is Jersey, but, hostile environment. The lower bowl is blue. And we came out and won. And guys like Cliff had rebounding games, had a rebound game, a get-right game. Jichael Davis, showed out. Noah Fernandez showed out. We showed out with the three-point shots. Gavin Griffiths, really 3 nice threes. Playing with swag. Hitting the threes, draining the threes. That kid is growing up as we speak, and I want the ball in his hands even more. And most importantly, an integral player, one of the best players on the team, especially from a hitting the boards, especially from a defensive standpoint, and the scoring will come. And we had a nice little shot in there off a rebound and offense, but the scoring will come from Mawot Mack. So there's a lot to take away from this game that is great. And there's still a lot to be just a little bit of let's wait and see what happens from this week of basketball too. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it shakes out. LIU, that should be, another get-right game. Just get your formula and philosophy down. Mississippi State, tough game. Let's play. Let's try to win. That's a neutral site game. Let's try to win that game, and then, you got one more game that you should have, take care of business, then you start the Big Ten Gauntlet. If you can go into the Big Ten Gauntlet healthy, with Mag there, with the right formula that's finally clicking and working, with the right energy, the right momentum, you could have a good season. We don't have any catastrophic losses on our resume. But we got to build some wins now. Seton Hall is the first step. Great job. Now try to take care of business the next 3 games, and you're in a pretty good position. You're in a pretty good position. And again, it was just nice to see Cliff's spirits lifted. Nice to see him playing better. I knew he had that gear that we weren't seeing. I don't know what it was, but we finally saw it. Wins MVP of the Hardwood Classic. It's nice. It's nice to see. It's great to see for a senior that came back for his school, for his team, for his people, for his own development. It's nice to see. Let's hope it continues. And it was just absolutely excellent to see Mawat Mag back. Much more of a integral part of this team than I think some give him credit for. Attacked the rehab really hard. Dedicated to it. Came back when he was ready, when it was right, and it paid off. Let's hope he continues to have a healthy year and a successful year. And let's see what this team is now that they have that player back. Let's see what this team is now that they're starting to feel out their strengths and weaknesses, and they finally found something that worked pretty well. But let's also be a little bit cautious in our optimism, given where Seton Hall is this year and et cetera. It's still a big win. It's on the road. It's against a formidable rival opponent. But let's string some of these things together and see more consistency, and we can get happy. The good news is there's still plenty of time to do it. And the good news is, we're on target, basically, believe it or not, despite a couple rough games. So that's all I have today, guys. I'm ready for the Pinstripe Bowl, too. I'll touch base with you. Any new news, touch base on LIU, etc. I hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend. I know it's rainy and it's dreary out. I wish it was snow, to be honest, just to bring in the Christmas and, holiday season, but it is what it is. If you have not done so yet, we've been gaining a ton of subscribers, and it's been awesome. I've been hearing from so many people. I love hearing from you guys. I love all of it. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. There's a lot more we can do once we get to 500 subscribers. If you haven't done so, click that button right there. Just click subscribe right now. Takes 2 seconds. Click it. Not even a second. Click it. And you'll become part of the Night Watch family. And there's all kinds of new cool stuff coming at you that I have in store. Once we get to 500, we could do so much more. So subscribe. And until next time, go Knights. Larry K. out.